Yeah, I wish that was my stream starting soon, Dave. Sadly, I mean, technically I could probably borrow this. But yeah, this is the stream starting soon for, what was it? Path of Exile. It's, the announcement stream. What's up, Willis? Nice. The quality settings back? Good. Alright, guys. I'll be back in a second. Willis, you're talking about the roof box? Is that what you're talking about? Okay, nice. You're gonna make 38? Oh, no. Oh, that? No, that's not me. This thing you're talking about, that? Nah, that's the Path of Exile stream. I wish, bruh. This is me doing a restream, homie. Hey, look at that. It's the Va, he knows. Makes me wonder if I should switch the... Make it just, right now I have it as display capture. Switch it up to... browser capture. There we go. There's my little guy. Nice. There we go. Nah, yeah, I was twirling a cane, buddy. 8 minutes until we begin.
Hey, bro. What? Oh my God!
They're eating her. And then they're going to eat me. Oh my God!
I'm on a new level. I can talk shit.
We are with Mono just running the gauntlet. I have color? Oh, that was, yeah, Fave. Fave color. I might have had to get rid of that one. Look, your gym fuel, get it, buddy.
He's an asshole, sir. I know that. What's his name? That is his name, sir. Asshole. Major asshole. How many assholes we got on this ship anyhow?
Yo.
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
Keep firing, assholes!
That one's for Dave.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
First one.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Dave knows. Why does he sound like an angry French chef?
Time to feed!
Now, this may shock you. We can kill it. But I was gonna say, love that song. But Bruce Buffer, I'm not the biggest fan of. Classics.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Yeah, I get the feeling, though, if I were to take something like that, I would be insta copyright striked. I don't know, maybe he just strikes me as that kind of person. Yeah, that'll get people...
Well, hello, Mr.
Oh, you just got
Fan.
parried, son.
I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but two things right now. Jack and shit. Jack left town.
You can blame Mono for that one. Yeah, that'll get people to quit bitching for at least a couple seconds. And then they'll be like, oh, where's level 50? Funny enough, that was during the time when the cough cough was going around here. And isn't that funny? See? Even with level 50. Amazing, isn't it? Oh shit. Here we go, boys. Here we go. It's starting.
Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games. Welcome
Hi, Chris
to our
Wilson.
live stream, and thanks so much for joining us today.
We are.
Our team
We're
had
here.
a lot of fun putting together Path of Exile's 3.15 expansion, and we've got a lot to share with you. Today's live stream is a busy one. We'll start by revealing the details of this expansion's new Challenge League. Then we'll show you how this expansion is going to dramatically shake up Path of Exile's metagame in a big way. Thirdly,
Damn,
we'll talk
maybe I
about
should
plans to
mute
make Path of Exile more challenging,
those for
restoring
now.
some of the adrenaline
We'll
and
leave it.
terror that you may recall from the good old days of closed beta. Next up, we're going to talk about Path of Exile Royale, the 100-player Battle Royale mode that we experimented with back in 2018. We'll be launching a restored and revamped version of Royale today, once our question and answer session with Ziggy D has concluded, and this event will run over the weekend. Anyway, there's a lot to discuss, so let's get started with the trailer for Path of Exile's next expansion.
Many centuries ago, our people traveled to this accursed continent. We return to reclaim our lost relics. But Raycraft grips its secrets tightly. We must wrench them from its grasp. know violence. We know trade. Retrieve our relics and we'll strike a deal. We will follow the path of our forebears to discover their unknown fate. They wait, shrouded in darkness, for one who may finally challenge them. Wealth and power will be yours, should you survive our expedition.
Looks good.
Alright, I've got a lot to tell you about. Let's start with the Expedition League itself. Long ago, Kalguran explorers came to Rayclast in the hope of colonizing it. Rayclast did what it does best, and they never returned. In the Expedition League, you will meet a group of Kalgurans who have set out on an expedition to investigate the fate of their ancestors and recover special ruined artifacts.
Yeah, I guess basically, yeah.
The ancient Kalgurans underestimated the dangers of Rayclast, and this new expedition is no exception. They need your help to protect them from the undead that rise at their expedition sites. As you travel through Rayclast, you'll encounter the Kalgurans at sites they believe their ancestors attempted to settle in the past. By the time you get there, they will have marked the site with signs indicating where chests are buried, holes indicating where their ancestors lie, and will have possibly unearthed some remnants of past Kalguran settlement. Due to the unique nature of Rayclast, the Kalgurans have found that the most effective way to excavate these sites is with explosives. And that's where you come in. You'll place a chain of explosives across the expedition site, carefully planning what each blast is going to unearth.
Ah, interesting. So it's like kind of a build your own blight in the way.
Once you push the plunger, any undead freed by the explosions rise from the ground and the slaughter begins. Some of these fallen
I do like
Kalgur
the
are
fact
more
that he called it
difficult
the
and
plunger.
rewarding than others, and have been indicated with special markers. Once you have defeated the army of undead, you're free to open all of the chests you unearthed and claim your rewards. It's up to you to decide where to place the chain of explosives to maximize your gains. Do you unearth a lot of monsters? Do you unearth more special monsters? Or do you go for the chests and try to avoid combat? The ancient Kalguran explorers built structures on Rayclast, and you may encounter remnants of these at excavation sites. These remnants have various modifiers on them that, when destroyed, apply to monsters and chests unearthed from that explosion onwards. Remnants greatly increase drops, but have some very difficult modifiers like immune to physical damage. You'll need to be very careful with your decision of which remnants to chain your explosives through, as they substantially ramp up the difficulty and rewards of the encounters.
Jesus.
Speaking of rewards, there's a lot of cool stuff to find. Alongside valuable equipment and currency items are Kalguran artifacts and logbooks, which we'll talk about soon. The Kalguran traders have made this expedition to Rayclast in order to recover their ruined artifacts. There are many different types of artifacts, and each of the Kalgurans is interested in a different set of them, with a unique way they want to trade them from you. For this expansion, we really wanted to play with the idea of having NPCs that want to trade with you in different ways. So we have themed their behaviors around the concepts of gambling, bartering, upselling, and exchanging. Let's meet the Kalgurans. Tuyen is a mercurial trader who maintains a positive outlook as long as he can, but if you cross a line, his temper changes quickly. Tuyen offers you items with unreasonably high prices, but he's happy to haggle. You can always buy the item at the price he's offering, but if you offer a lower price, he might accept it, counteroffer, or withdraw the item entirely if he is offended by your lowball. He also occasionally sells currency items, so it's worthwhile keeping some of the artifacts he's looking for on hand just in case you see an opportunity. Grog is an average man pushed into Rayclast's dangers. He's helpful, concerned, and a bit fearful. He is very happy for you to do the fighting so that he can stay safe on the sidelines. He loves making deals and trying to upsell you. If you buy one of the items that Brog offers, he'll try to offer you a more complex deal where he improves the item via crafting. If you accept this deal, he'll try to upsell you again and again until you eventually walk away with your purchase. If you can't afford one of these incremental upgrades, you can leave and come back later with enough ruined artifacts to cover the cost. Because you don't get to supply your own starter item for this process, and have to select an item with promise from the range that he offers, his incremental crafting upgrades are priced rather cheaply. Gwenin is a cynical gambler who claims that luck depends on how hard you believe. So you really need to convince yourself that you're going to get that headhunter. If you don't, it's your fault. Gwenin shows you a set of base types with unknown properties. When you gamble by buying one, you'll receive a random item of that base type back. It could easily be a random magic item that you have no use for, but can sometimes be a valuable rare or unique item. It's probably best to prioritize gambling on base types that are most relevant to your character. Once you have exhausted all the items that interest you, it's possible to use a specific new currency item to re-roll the gamble window to a set of new items of your current level. Sometimes a base type shows up that is a lot more expensive than it would otherwise be, and gambling on this item has a higher expected value than normal. You're taking the risk though that it could still be junk.
Nice.
Danig, Warrior Skald, is the heart of the expedition, its brave leader and lawmaster. Danig is interested
the gambling
in specific
begins,
types of
y'all.
rare artifacts and wants to trade these from you for a variety of options, such as currency that lets you re-roll vendor inventories, logbooks, or artifacts that other Kalguran traders are looking for. You can talk to the traders in the wild, in town, or in your hideout. They grant you access to your expedition locker, which is like the Heist locker, a lockbox for League-specific items, which can be accessed in all three places also. We're adding the affinity system to these lockers. Among the many relics of the ancient Kalgurans you might find at their expedition sites are logbooks. These ancient books chronicle the locations that their ancestors visited in their exploration of Rayclust. A logbook item can be rolled to have a set of explicit mods, like an endgame map.
Nice.
Each location within the logbook has its own implicit mods, as well as a theme that controls what types of remnants can be found there. Talk to Danig in your hideout and give him a logbook you have found to go on an expedition to one of the locations it describes. These are all exotic places that no exiles have ever traveled to before. Just like how a blighted map was one giant blight encounter with no natural monsters, the expedition you go on from a logbook is one giant expedition. Expeditions from logbooks are not only different because of their large size, but because there are special objects that you can interact with using explosives. For example, trees that contain monsters or items, passageways that reveal chests or bosses, and so on. Speaking of bosses, there are some formidable ones for you to seek out, and a set of valuable new
That looked like the
items
Haunted
and
Mansion.
base types that can only come from expedition content. The Kalguran people are not from Rayclust, so the items do not have the same defensive properties that ours do. Instead of armor, evasion, and energy shield, they have ward. This new base type is a pair of boots that grants ward and can get mods that improve it. The way that ward works is that you have a certain amount of it, and that amount is fully deducted from the first incoming hit that you receive. Your ward is then disabled and takes 5 seconds to re-enable. At that point, the next hit you receive is substantially mitigated in the same way. It's quite a different style of defensive property and works very well in conjunction with systems like evasion, block, or dodge. As the undead enemies you unearth in expedition encounters are fallen Kalguran explorers, they also have a ward rather than traditional defenses. This unique helmet allows you to go all in with ward as a defensive option for your character. It causes all increases to energy shield to affect your ward instead, grants you a bunch of ward, and helps it recover faster. This other unique helmet is also on a new base type that grants ward instead of other defense types, but its properties don't interact with ward. Instead, it prevents you from dealing critical strikes and grants you Battle Mage, which adds spell damage equal to the damage of your main hand weapon. The new base types and uniques I showed you here are just some of the ones you'll be able to discover when you play next week. So that's the Expedition League. Each of the developers I have spoken to has liked a different aspect of it, but I have really personally been enjoying the different trade mechanics offered by the Kalguran NPCs. The gamble window takes me back 20 years on a nostalgic trip, and Tuyin's haggling manages to capture the intense feeling I get when negotiating, and anyone who really knows me knows how much I love negotiating. This expansion also promises to massively shake up the Path of Exile metagame, and we're doing that by introducing new gems, lots and lots of new gems. For quite a while now, the way we have approached new skills in Path of Exile expansions is to make a bunch of gems themed around an entirely new build or dramatically augmenting a few existing builds. The Blood skills in the Ultimatum expansion are a good example of this. While this approach is great in terms of creating interesting new builds, it doesn't always affect every character game-wide. In order to achieve this big metagame shakeup, we've come up with a crazy idea for the Expedition expansion, adding a gigantic pile of new gems at once, spread among as many different playstyles as possible. Each of these gems can of course be used by many different classes, but we use the list of 19 Ascendancy classes for inspiration when planning these gems. Our goal here is that regardless of which build you're playing, there will be new gems that you can add to your character. Let's go through the 19 new skill and support gems. The Earthbreaker support gem can be linked to any slam skill. Upon use, it summons an ancestor totem that uses that slam on your behalf. In this example, we've created a build that summons multiple ancestor totems.
That's really cool.
Tectonic slam. As you can see, this build covers a large area in fiery death, while you get to stay out of harm's way. This is a powerful option for chieftains in particular, due to the various totem bonuses available on their Ascendancy passive tree. Adept players will also be wondering if the Earthbreaker support allows you to create leap slamming totems, and the answer is absolutely. As with other ancestor totems, the Earthbreaker support also provides a buff to you, granting some increased area of effect with melee skills. Rage Vortex provides a new way to consume your rage, unleashing a whirling vortex that rapidly hits enemies within its range. It gains damage and area of effect based on how much rage was sacrificed. The vortex slows down when enemies survive being hit by it.
And look at that. I was tempted on making a chieftain this thing too.
While you can only have one Rage Vortex active at a time, characters such as Berserkers who are able to generate a lot of rage quickly will find it a great way to augment their damage.
Damn, they take so much fucking damage though.
Bone Shatter strikes your enemies with a forceful blow. If an enemy is stunned by this attack, a powerful shockwave is released. The area of effect of the shockwave is determined by the duration of the stun you invoke.
Looks kind of boring, honestly, but I mean...
Each time you use Bone Shatter
okay, never mind.
Enemy, you take physical damage yourself and gain a trauma stack. The more stacks you have, the more damage Bone Shatter will deal to both you and your enemies. This self-damage mechanic makes the Juggernaut the ideal class for the skill, because they have easy access to lots of armor to mitigate the downside. Also, the Juggernaut has Ascendancy passives that grant increased stun duration, which help make sure the shockwave is as large as possible. Defiance Banner is a new purely defensive banner skill. While you carry the Defiance Banner, it increases the armor and evasion of nearby allies while reducing the critical strike chance of nearby enemies. It also gains stages while carried near enemies and can be placed on the ground to enhance its effects. When the Defiance Banner is placed, it inflicts a taunt on enemies for a duration based on the number of stages the banner had accumulated while it was carried. Enemies affected by this taunt also deal less damage to all targets. The next new skill is Shield Crush, which swipes your shield towards enemies and sends out forceful waves of damage based on the stats of your shield. These waves can shotgun enemies with up to 2 hits at once, so while Shield Crush is great against groups, it's also effective against single targets and can be used alongside Shield Charge and Spectral Shield Throw. We've improved both of these skills so that the overall aggressive shield build is more powerful. The new Behead support gem can only support strike skills and is basically like a mini headhunter. When a supported strike kills a rare enemy, you'll steal one of its modifiers. Obviously, this gem can't be as crazy as the full headhunter experience, so it comes with some restrictions. Stolen modifiers can persist for 20 seconds, and slaying another rare enemy will replace the modifier you have active. The Behead support gem also grants you more damage against enemies on low life. In conjunction with the Slayer's Bane of Legends Ascendancy passive, this bonus really embraces the execution theme of the Behead support. Storm Rain is a new bow skill that fires arrows that stick into the ground. These arrows periodically pulse with lightning damage that arcs to nearby arrows. This skill works very well with multiple projectiles because you can quickly set up a large patch of lightning death. Existing ballista skills in Path of Exile pick their own targets, like sentry guns do. They'll start shooting immediately and will generally target the closest enemies. While this behavior is usually great, sometimes you want fine control over what your ballistas will fire at. The focused ballista support gem causes your ballistas to pick the same targets as you, and they will only fire when you fire your own ranged weapon. It also makes the ballistas fire a lot faster than they otherwise would. This support gem allows you to effectively focus fire on specific enemies such as bosses. Explosive Concoction is quite a novel skill. It introduces several new concepts that haven't been explored with skills before. Here you can see the Pathfinder throwing an explosive projectile at monsters. Firstly, you may notice that the Pathfinder isn't holding any weapons. This is because Explosive Concoction is the very first ranged skill that can and must be used unarmed. It's also the first skill that directly interacts with the benefits provided by your flasks. When you throw your Explosive Concoction onto a targeted area, it deals fire damage and uses available charges from your Ruby, Sapphire, and Topaz flasks to grant bonuses based on what flask charges were used. The skill still works even if you don't have the appropriate flasks or charges to consume, but correctly managing your flask setup can greatly enhance the power of this skill. What we really love about this gem is that it brings to life the idea of throwing your flasks at enemies and having them explode. In conjunction with the flask-focused benefits provided by the Pathfinder's Ascendancy passive skills, we're really excited to see what new playstyles are enabled by this gem. This is the Ambush skill. It teleports you up to an enemy, blinds them, and exerts your next one-handed melee attack. This exerted attack has a high critical strike chance and multiplier. In addition to this helping your assassinations, you can also use Ambush to quickly re-engage targets after dashing away. Voltaxic Burst grants a buff that counts down to 0, triggering a burst of lightning damage around you with a portion of that damage.
Hey, I've seen that before.
Enemies slain by your Voltaxic Burst will also explode, dealing chaos damage around them based on their maximum life. You can stack up many Voltaxic Bursts on yourself at the same time. Consider using duration modifiers to modify the timing of the explosion.
Ah, damn. These guys play so risky.
Before it explodes. When you use Blade Trap, you throw out a mechanical device with 2 copies of your weapon attached. These blades spin rapidly in a circle a set number of times, dealing damage to anything they pass through. When dual wielding, the trap rotates faster but deals damage based on both weapons. Because it's a trap, Blade Trap behaves a little differently to other attack skills by operating independently of your attack speed. This means you'll have some interesting itemization choices to make and focusing more on damage modifiers rather than the typical focus of maximizing attack speed.
Huh.
Summon Reaper creates a single powerful minion that uses fast melee physical attacks which cause bleeding. While the Reaper is active, you can use the skill again to direct the Reaper to a specific location, dealing a powerful attack along its path. The Reaper wants to be your only minion. It reduces the life and damage of your other minions, and will consume them to heal itself and gain damage and speed buffs. When designing this new skill for the Necromancer, we wanted to explore the idea of having a single ultimate minion. While there were ways to somewhat achieve this before, the Reaper is quite different in its abilities and interactions with other minions. It also feels much more active and directly under your control. One quick note though, the Reaper will absolutely eat your animated guardian if you're not careful. Forbidden Rite is a powerful new spell that fires an exploding chaos projectile at a targeted area. It also targets a selection of enemies in an area around the player's location and fires projectiles at them too. But be careful, Forbidden Rite also inflicts damage on you when cast. If you can find a clever way to mitigate this harmful downside,
did you see the character's name? Patch Notes 1.
Widespread damage at your fingertips. The Eye of Winter is a large projectile that fires out a barrage of cold projectiles in a spiral formation as it travels. When it reaches its maximum distance or collides with the terrain, it explodes, firing out even more projectiles in a spiral. This type of skill is one we've been wanting to bring to Path of Exile for a long time, and we felt that this new collection of skills was the perfect place to showcase it. This Inquisitor is using the new Battle Mage's Cry skill, which taunts nearby enemies and exerts your subsequent attacks, causing them to trigger a linked spell on your next melee hit. Here you can see the player taunting enemies with Battle Mage's Cry and using Consecrated Path to teleport to enemies. The slam is exerted, triggering Firestorm to rain down on those enemies. In order to assist with scaling both attack and spell damage, the buff this Warcry provides lets your spell damage apply to your attacks. This property is usually only available on wands and certain unique items. Mana Bond is a somewhat unusual gem in that its source of power relies on your current mana. Upon use, it creates a rune that explodes at a location you're targeting. This explosion can either deal more damage or cover a larger area depending on the state of your mana. The more mana that's missing from your mana pool, the more damage Mana Bond will deal, as it converts a percentage of your missing mana into added lightning damage. The more full your mana pool is, the more area the explosion will cover. This means that being adept at managing your mana pool becomes highly advantageous. For example, having slightly higher mana while clearing a map provides greater clear speed, but when fighting tougher enemies, having a lower current mana amount is better. Absolution has been designed for Guardians as a spell version of Dominating Blow. Absolution deals a damaging shockwave in a targeted area. When it kills an enemy, it summons a Sentinel of Absolution, which also deals damage by casting Absolution itself. The Sentinels also periodically cast a larger version of Absolution on the cooldown. While the Sentinels version of Absolution can't summon even more minions, they are a powerful army to fight against. Spectral Helix throws a spectral copy of your melee weapon which spirals outwards from you, dealing damage to any enemies it passes through. The design of this skill achieves what we always wanted Val Spectral Throw to be. We thought it was a really fun idea for a skill, but because of the limitations caused by the soul gathering requirements of Val skills, it wasn't possible to use Val Spectral Throw as a primary skill. Now that Spectral Helix can live up to this purpose, we've reworked Val Spectral Throw, which we'll reveal closer to release. One of the other issues that Val Spectral Throw had was that it didn't work very well in indoors areas. However, Spectral Helix improves upon this, as the projectiles that spiral outwards can also bounce off of walls and proceed to hit enemies, rather than simply disappearing upon collision.
Okay.
Over the last few years, Path of Exile has really suffered from player power creep. As a consequence of trying to make compelling content, each expansion we release either gives players more axes on which to improve their character, more effective skills to use, or ways to craft better and more powerful items. Measuring from closed beta to now, this Expedition expansion is our 30th Path of Exile release. The amount of power creep varies per release, of course, with systems like Ascendancy classes providing, like 20, 30, 40% power creep at once? Like with Compound Interest, it would only take 8% more player power per expansion from new items, crafting, character systems, item acquisition opportunities, and new skills for player power to grow tenfold since the game has been out. And tenfold is roughly what we measure the increase in player power to be. We may nerf the most out-of-hand cases every launch, but we're only reducing them back down to close to the new baseline. The average Path of Exile character gets more and more powerful. While we do occasionally add new endgame challenges that are appropriate for the current power level of top characters, the rest of the game just becomes relatively easier and easier. Some games handle this by just endlessly and exponentially scaling monster life and damage to counteract player power growth.
Which is
Eventually,
stupid.
the numbers get too large and you need to crunch them all down again.
Yes.
This is a really cheap approach. It makes the game feel like a treadmill where the developers are just
Correct.
turning a knob as they hand you new power, keeping you in the same place forever. We don't want to treat Path of Exile like that, and hence our solutions are more complicated.
Appreciate it.
At the same time, one of
Damn,
the
look
issues
at that
is
energy
players
shield.
will always pick the most powerful way of interacting with any game system, even when that's not actually fun to play. This leads
Agreed.
to behaviors like Flask Piano, or the way that everyone just picks support gems that basically add pure damage. As game designers, it is our responsibility to make sure that the most powerful behaviors are also the most fun to engage with. With that in mind, the balance changes that we are making in Expedition are far-reaching and are going
I don't know
to
what
affect
this guy's
almost
playing
all
right now, but
characters.
that shit is sick!
Our goal is not to just nerf specific builds, but to improve the game, its challenge, and to make sure that people want to pick fun build choices. Anyone who played Path of Exile during its closed beta 9 years ago can attest to how challenging the campaign was to play through. Early monsters were dangerous and terrifying, able to kill a character in a few seconds of inattention. Players feared going into the ship graveyard cave because of the Flicker Strike ghosts.
Jesus
They were
Christ.
careful around rowers because a couple of unlucky charges could outright kill them. Trying to kill a Goatman Shaman while he had Molten Shell up was a pretty terrible idea. Nowadays, however, the game is a lot easier. We added level 2 and 4 support gems without increasing the difficulty of the game to compensate at all. Modern League mechanics shower the player in rare items from early levels, and we didn't make the game any harder in response. In fact, it's very interesting to compare the difficulty of League content with that of the base game. For a few years now, we've been shipping difficult leagues where monster life and damage values are a lot higher than the regular monsters that players fight between those League encounters. Players enjoy League content because it's challenging. They also told us they really enjoyed the Path of Exile 2 demo at ExileCon, and
Alright,
it was
bud, yeah.
tuned to be almost
Dude, this thing looks
punitive in
amazing.
terms of difficulty. One thing we learned from building that demo was that it's okay for
Holy
some monsters
shit.
to be able to run 20 to 40% faster than the player. In Path of Exile 1's first act, there isn't a single monster that moves faster than the player's default movement speed. We're
Alright, pause
rebalancing
that
the
for right
campaign
now,
to
bud.
be challenging. So far, we have focused mostly on Act 1, but with each coming expansion, we'll be extending this further. Our plan is that within a year or so, we'll have reviewed or touched every single monster in the game. While this additional challenge probably won't
But I'll
stop
play it
the
for you
most
later,
skilled
buddy.
players easily dominating the campaign or running through it to get to maps quickly, it will mean that players who engage with the content will find a consistent difficulty level between League content and regular content. It's worth noting that the behavioral and balance changes to monsters will definitely affect their map versions.
So are they making Axe
For quite
harder?
some time, Path of Exile players and developers
Oh,
have
shit.
been keen for a big rework to its flask system.
Oh shit.
In the endgame, flasks grant really powerful buffs for a number of seconds after use, and these buffs allow the player to kill monsters quickly, filling the flasks up so they can be used as soon as they run out. With 5 such flasks equipped, the correct behavior was to spam the 1 to 5 keys repeatedly to keep all the flasks constantly up without any downsides. This flask piano playstyle was popular enough that players were improvising devices to hit all of those keys at once. Spamming the same set of keys repeatedly to get a powerful set of buffs that rival the power you get from your entire set of equipped items is not a fun game mechanic. It's unbalanced and certainly isn't nice on your wrist. It prevents us from balancing the game well for players who aren't smashing their keyboard constantly and seriously restricts the design space we can use on flasks. In addition, certain unique flasks completely outclass other ones in terms of raw damage output.
Yeah, like the
It was
fucking
pretty clear to us
20
that Path of
Exalt
Exile
ones.
would be a lot better if we
Yeah,
did some
Bottled
serious
Faith.
work on flasks to make sure that their incentives were aligned with fun rather than with spamming blindly.
Thank you.
Most utility flasks and unique flasks have been rebalanced. Expect a lot less permanent power from flasks. Flasks that provide raw defense or raw power are the ones with the biggest nerfs. Some flasks have been selectively buffed a bit if they were underpowered or less popular. In the Expedition expansion, there are now 3 ways that you can use flasks. You can either continue to use the rebalanced ones the traditional way, or you can apply one of the 2 new types of currency items to your flasks. The Instilling Orb and Enkindling Orb drop as part of the regular drop pool from regular monsters and chests. The Instilling Orb will cause a flask to be used automatically upon
Yes.
a specific condition being met. For example, when its charges become full, or when you become affected by Ignite. This means that in the cases where you would previously want to time a specific flask usage, you can now rely on it happening automatically, with the only trade-off being that it may consume charges that you otherwise wouldn't intend it to. There are a variety of different conditions, and a random one is enchanted onto your flask, overwriting the others each time you use an Instilling Orb on it. The Enkindling Orb prevents utility flasks from gaining charges while active, but provides a big boost to their effect, duration, or various ways they interact with their charges. There are various different types of boosts, so you can use more orbs to reroll for the one that you want. When a flask removes a curse, it no longer applies a period of immunity to curses. Flasks that remove ailments now only provide a period of immunity to that ailment if they actually removed it. So if you get ignited, use a dowsing flask to remove the ignite and to gain immunity for a while. You can't spam the flask before you're ignited to be permanently immune. If you want permanent mitigation of ailments, there are other options for your build. Note that we have rebalanced ailment mitigation in general, so there aren't a few options that completely outclass the rest. Monster density in Path of Exile gets a lot higher as you play through the game. When we initially balanced flash charge generation a decade ago, we did not anticipate the levels of monster density we would reach by 2021. Monsters in Acts 6 through 10 now generate fewer flash charges, and monsters and maps generate even fewer still. So now there's a lot more strategy involved with flask use. Flasks don't gain as many charges, so are a little harder to constantly spam, and aren't designed to provide such a powerful slew of permanent buffs. But you can control which provide larger than normal effects, and which are triggered automatically as part of your build.
Love it.
We have reworked existing flasks, such as Basalt and Aquamarine flasks, and have introduced new Corundum and Gold flasks. For a while now, we have been concerned with a power gap between support gems. There are gems that grant huge multiplicative damage bonuses, and there are gems that do a bunch of stuff you don't really care about. When you're building a character, by far the correct choice is just to stack on all the multiplicative damage bonuses and ignore all the interesting utility support gems, because their opportunity cost is just too high. We are reducing the damage bonuses on the support gems that are clearly just about huge damage boosts, and trying to give them impactful and appropriate downsides. For example, the Controlled Destruction support gem now penalizes critical strikes multiplicatively.
Ooh.
Overall, this works out to a total of somewhere around 20%, potentially as high as 40% damage reduction for a character using a fully 6-link skill with entirely damaged support gems. There's much less impact for characters that use utility support gems or those who didn't have a 6-link setup. This achieves 2 goals for us. Firstly, the gap between good and bad support gems has been narrowed, creating more interesting build opportunities. Secondly,
no idea where
player
he's playing,
damage
right?
output in the endgame is reduced, which is a goal for this balance pass. As I mentioned, we want to iteratively restore challenge to Path of Exile. It's worth clarifying that we haven't buffed unused
I've never
utility
fought there.
support gems as part of this balance pass. It's fully intentional that it's a reduction of power for the most damaging ones.
Yeah.
When we're
done
designing
that?
skills
Which one
for
was that
Path
one?
of
Tier
Exile,
14?
The mana cost of the skill
The
is
park?
a mechanism
Okay.
to allow us to have larger impactful effects.
Okay.
Bigger skills should cost more mana to
Shit.
cast. Unfortunately,
this thing.
this entire mechanism is currently bypassed by triggering skills as this skips their mana cost. This basically means that we can't design really powerful spells. In 3.15, triggering skills through support gems will require paying their mana cost. In fact, sometimes it now costs more than casting the gem by hand. Thankfully though, this isn't very hard with well-constructed characters. Certain support gems that were originally disabled from supporting triggered skills, like Arcane Surge, can now be used to support them. Builds that use triggered skills are some of the most interesting characters in Path of Exile, and they are often the best representation of the craziness that our character customization system allows. We're confident that they are just as powerful as before, but we now have more interesting design space to explore with future skills. Now let's talk about movement skills.
Nice.
As
Don't
you
touch
know,
my frost
most
blink.
Interaction with monster behavior is essentially bypassed if you're using an extremely effective movement skill. This is okay if you're specialized
Oh,
deeply
flame
in
dash. I
customizing
see
that
it.
skill, but it's currently the default state for any character if you use flame dash, smoke mine, or dash without any further investment. These skills have been rebalanced to be more in line with other movement skills. These are not huge numeric nerfs, but do mean that there is scope for improving the performance of the skills by specializing around them. There are many other balance changes in 3.15, which you can read about in the Balance Manifesto and patch notes next week. To be honest, there are a lot of nerfs here. We completely understand that this level of change will make some people nervous, but it's time we start actively combating power creep and fixing game systems that haven't been working the way we intended them to. I think that the metagame of Expedition is going to be fascinating. The reduction of overall player power, combined with all of the opportunities from the new skills and flask system changes, should create entirely new sets of builds that we haven't previously seen. You guys are always surprising us with what you do, and we can't wait to see what you come up with here. So back in early 2018, there was a trend where every online game was releasing a Battle Royale mode and getting a lot of good press in the process.
Funny.
We had a running joke in the office that our fast development speed meant that we could probably add a Battle Royale mode to Path of Exile in one day of development. As April Fool's Day approached, we tried to do exactly that. We pulled a few developers together and asked them to spend no more than one workday each on their contributions to this new mode. On April 1st, 2018, we launched Path of Exile Royale.
Goldran! Yeah, buddy!
It was a quick and dirty job, so we only left the game mode turned on for a couple of days. It went pretty well considering it had no custom balance whatsoever.
Oh my god, I'm getting destroyed!
After April 1st, we turned the mode off and forgot all about it. But the community did not forget. In fact, they've been quite keen to remember it constantly and to urge us to bring it back. But that wouldn't be easy, as to actually make it a decent experience would require a lot of custom balance, playtesting, and feature implementation work. A few months ago, we decided to do exactly that. Path of Exile Royale will return today. In fact, immediately after the QA section of this live stream. We're going to run it for the weekend as a test, and then turn it on every weekend for a while, starting the week after Expedition's launch. We'll patch it between weekends with balance tweaks, and if it's popular over the long term, new features. We have no idea what the long-term viability of this game mode is going to be like, so we'll run it for this league and then assess where things stand. Our initial version of Royale from 2018 used Path of Exile's default passive skill tree, which didn't have interesting options for characters that rarely got to level 10. It also used all of our skill gems and unique items as is, where many of the interesting ones were way too high level for these super low level characters to ever find. We've made a completely new Royale-specific passive skill tree that has everything you need to quickly adapt your character for high-speed PvP combat. It features approximately 90 new custom notable passives, a special new left-aligned window so you can stay aware of your surroundings while allocating skills, and you gain 2 passive skill points per level. You're also able to allocate passive skills from any of the tree's starting locations, regardless of which character class you picked. We have created low-level versions of around 50 iconic skill gems, 20 support gems, and over 70 unique items. These royalified items are appropriate for low-level play and include quite a few things that are usually only available at substantially higher character levels in the core game. The whole island has been improved. We've made the terrain more varied and interesting so that the fights feel different depending on where they take place. You'll encounter flask troves which provide charges for your flasks. These troves periodically replenish themselves, so expect a lot of combat to occur around them. There are many other small improvements you'll notice when you play Royale, such as an improved spectator mode, improved leaderboard, and ability to pillage items from players through a special interface rather than having them clutter the ground.
They've been working.
You don't need to delete and remake your character for each game, as you could just reuse your old one, which is automatically reset to level 1. Your prize for coming first on a Royale event is this new Roa Dinner Hideout decoration. It's a bit like a Challenge League totem as it grows more impressive as you win more events. Royale is available to play today, as soon as our Q&A session concludes in about 45 minutes. So patch your Path of Exile client, and when we're done with the Q&A, log in and click to join the Royale event at the bottom right of the screen. For more detailed information on how the mode works, check out the news post we just made on pathofexile.com.
It might, we'll see.
Today over the weekend.
It's PvP that everybody wants.
The next few days, we'll run it again every weekend other than Expedition's launch weekend for the next few months.
Dude, I don't know.
And let us know your feedback.
Winner, Roa Dinner. Jesus Christ. Oh, here we go.
Coming in Expedition, including the full patch notes on Tuesday, US time. We'll move on to the Q&A shortly to answer your burning questions, but first, let's have a look at the new supporter packs that are available right now to celebrate the launch of Expedition and help fund ongoing development of Path of Exile 2, and special modes like Royale. The Soulkeeper and Aesir supporter packs come with masses of points to spend in the store, social frames, forum titles and badges, a download of the digital soundtrack, and of course exclusive cosmetic microtransactions like armor sets and weapon skins. The Soulkeeper series comes with an exclusive pet, and the Aesir series an exclusive set of wings. On top of the traditional small and medium-sized supporter packs that are consistent with ones we've released in the past, we're also adding an optional new third tier for each series. This new tier includes an exclusive apparition portal effect and a slightly better ratio of points per dollar spent. The introduction of these new packs should give you more options for what combination of each pack series you purchase. Like always, it's possible to upgrade between pack tiers within each series. Thank you so much for your support. Purchases of these supporter packs are the only thing that fund the ongoing development of Path of Exile, as well as expansions like Expedition and Path of Exile Royale. The reveals we showed you today are already live on YouTube for you to link to your friends in case they missed the live stream. Please do so. We'd love to have as many of you as possible joining our expedition next week. It's time for the Q&A. If you have any questions from what we've shown you today, please get them ready because I'm about to be joined by Ziggy D as we answer your questions from Twitch chat. And after that, see you in Royale.
Man, is this going to be Save the World and Royale's going to take over? Shit, it might, man. Alright. Angela here. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back, viewers, my stream. So, guys, we just finished watching the announcement. And honestly, like, my quick thoughts. I really hope this Royale doesn't do what Fortnite did to Fortnite Save the World. I hope that... Who knows, man? Because it looks like they're spending a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy. Well, I don't know about the money part, but I mean, it looks like a lot of energy. They're legit. They're legit doing that. They're making it happen. And, yeah, it's crazy. But aside from that, the Expedition. Sorry, I was completely taken back by that possible 100-man Royale, which, you know, every streamer is going to be hopping on that. That's going to be the hot thing everyone's going to be doing and playing for a while. Because everybody likes to beat up a streamer or kill a streamer in a fucking game. So that's the number one thing I'm kind of worried about. But aside from that, the new Expedition, I'm liking it. It's going to basically give you the potential to gamble. There's 4 different types of gambling, 4 different types of characters. It's like Blight. If you like Blight, it's just like Blight. I like that. Dude, there is some really cool mechanics. I can see a lot of people hating this league, though. Because you heard what they said. They rebalance the gems. They rebalance the flasks. They rebalance the movement thing. So, if you look at any big build, like the one that everyone, cookie cutter, they say, hey, you play this build, put the fucking flame dash because it's the best. And then you find out that everyone's using flame dash. Like every fucking skill type, whatever build, all had flame dash. Every single one of them. I personally like Frost Blink. So hopefully that didn't get nerfed. And I still have it. Hopefully it got buffed. But he said there's a lot of nerfs in the movement speed category. I am totally cool with creating your own and learning how to create your own. That's something I always talk about, something I always thought about. Oh, and here are these guys talking. But yeah.
Good morning from Australia and New Zealand.
Going really quick on that, man. Like, I'll come back to them in a second. But it's tough to say because I personally am going to enjoy it. I personally am going to like everything about it. But will the overall people who have no creativity and no... I mean, I hate to be mean like that, but they want to just follow a build. They don't want to explore. They don't want to try anything new. They just want, what's the best? And I want to be the best like no one ever was. Well, you know, they can get fucked because that's basically what's going to happen to you. You're not going to be able to do the cookie cutter. You're not going to be able to just flame dash your way to victory. And then you can't give that same thing. Oh, I beat all the challenges. I'm the best. Suck my dick. Yada, yada, yada. No. Good luck. There are new gems. All the things that you're used to doing and the things that you said that, oh, I'm done with this league or I've already finished this league. Everything's boring. It's too easy. I did this. I did that. Well, good luck now because you can't do the same shit over and over again now. You happy? And then they're gonna go on Reddit and whatever and be like, oh, game sucks. They're making it harder so that people like me can't try and flex on everything. Grow up. Sucks to suck, doesn't it? So get out there, try your own build, your own, aka you. Which, you know, not looking up on best builds of all time in 3.14, best builds ever. It's like, oh, no need for exalts or yada, yada, yada. You know, I don't know, whatever. I try not to use builds. I did look up Homeboy's 3.15 build when I got stuck when I was trying to make a lightning trapper. I was using like every trap. But yeah, I am personally enjoying it. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I want to see where they're going to go with this. A lot of nerfs, like you said, but I think they're well-placed nerfs. Because he talked about it specifically. He said, majority of developers, and this happens with every developer, they're like, oh, damn, the game is coming along. Oh, shit. Looks like people are getting too strong. What should we do? Just raise the health of the enemies. That'll fix it. That's like if you play any video game that has, like, difficulty modes. And then, like, the last one, which is, like, hardcore or legendary or the you know, like, Dante must die kind of thing. All it does is your HP goes down and the enemies goes up and their damage goes up. It is lazy as fuck. Super fucking lazy. And all I have to say about that is that, thank God. Thank you. Thank you for actually editing it and correctly making a game a game. Thank you for that. So... Chris Wilson, Grinding Gear Games. I know not everybody likes it. And honestly, dude, I've gone through the community tab on Steam and everything. And dude, it is... Why y'all so fucking negative? It's like, obviously, again, I think you are the people I'm talking about. With no creativity. The people that are angry about everything. And then, yeah, they're hating on just like everything. And then anything that doesn't quote unquote go their way, they're fucking angry about it all. Kind of like that. You see all those Reddit things. We'll put it this way. The Flash, right? Everybody was complaining about, oh man, I gotta piano roll the fuck. This is a game all about just smashing my fucking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 key. But it's like, okay, so here. Now you can have one that auto-casts whenever you get stunned. Now you have one that can auto-cast whenever you get ignited. That's all you need. That's all you need. You don't need anything else. You're good. So... And then the other one is that you can pick and choose, like, oh, you want to use, like, Quicksilver. And now you can have this one. It doesn't gain any, charges, or it gains charges slower, but then it lasts a lot longer. Perfect. Fine. Like they are doing the best way. No, you didn't play Fur Elise on there. Fur Elise is dun-na-na-na-na. No, you playing fucking Beethoven's third movement. Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, third movement. That is what you're fucking playing. Or fucking, that's what you're playing. It's like, love that one, though. That's one of my favorite fucking Beethoven ones. But anyway, overall, guys, I am excited for it. I thought this was going to be just some copy paste. We have this guy, these guys here, drop it and just throw it at you, you know? And that's, I don't know anything about what's happening in World of Warcraft, but I hear that could potentially be what's happening in the WoW community, which is why I hear a lot of people are switching over to Final Fantasy 14. And in my opinion, for them to stay, like, I liked how they showed us the back in the day, when people were still in the axe, and like a fucking charging Roa would one-hit you. That is fucking amazing. Or like you would die by the Flicker Strike ghosts. It's like, dude, that is sick. That is fucking amazing. But again, this right here is what I'm scared of. I am deadly scared of this mode taking over. Path of Exile Royale, dude, that is, woo! I'm kind of scared because I can already see all those streamers going like, yeah, we gotta get some Path of Exile Royale, and then that's gonna be it, and no one's gonna care about the actual game anymore. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think there's still gonna be a good amount of us that are still gonna do it, but we'll see. But overall, I'm enjoying it. I was shocked to find out also that the Royale begins in 34 minutes. In 34 minutes, you can play that 100-person Royale. And it's just like, damn, what the fuck, man? Crazy. Just insane. But people wanted something different. That's about as different as you can get. And these guys, listen to that. They did that as an April 1st, April Fool's joke. And it worked. Like they actually did it. It's like a lot of people will say, we're going to do this, we're going to work on this, but they don't actually follow through. These motherfuckers actually follow through. So props to them. Good job. And again, excuse me. Yeah, see? Gotta love it when those burps just hit you. But anyway, I also like the fact that they are constantly giving us different. Like, that is pretty cool right there. That alone, like the little visage of the new thing, and then these crazy ass portals popping up. That's pretty sick. And then that right there, you got your own freaking Valkyries just like holding up the portals for you. Pretty sick. Pretty sick if you don't ask. And then that, like the new gems, the new things. I mean, like, I was already thinking about using a chieftain for this league, and that's gonna be my one character I play the whole league. And yeah, that looks sick. And then the fact that they had the jumping totems, that was so fucking cool. But yeah, guys, honestly, like my immediate thoughts after watching that like give or take hour-long thing, I like it. I like the direction it's going. Again, I can already hear the anger of those uncreative sons of bitches that are gonna be like, blah, 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 blah. It's like, dude, try making something on your own, you plagiaristic motherfuckers. Like, think about all those people that you knew got caught for plagiarism, either in middle school, high school, or college. All you had to do was just write something of your own words. Why you gotta copy literally word for word someone else's work? It's not your thoughts. You're legit plagiarizing. So yeah, I say make your own build. And then if you find someone that has a build similar, because we all think similar, we're all humans, copy some ideas then. But you find and discover what you like and how you want to do it. And then if you find someone else's way that just happens to work better than yours, cool, fine. But don't just go straight for somebody else's work right off the bat. Oh, that's my thoughts. That's my fucking thoughts, my fucking rant on Expedition. Coming out next week, matter of fact. I believe it's a Friday, the 23rd. I'll be definitely checking that out. The 23rd, yep, so it should be a Friday. And then, I don't know how I feel about this Royale review. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna die within, like, it's like, alright, Royale started, and I'm dead. Fuck! That's probably gonna be me. So if you guys are hoping any crazy Royale streams for me, maybe. But come on, dude, I'm trying to get, AGL techies to level, well, I wanted to get them to 100. I know that ain't gonna happen in the next, like, what, 4 days? Or 5 days, or whatever the fuck, whenever this league starts. What, 8 days? Yeah, like fucking 8 days? Yeah, in the next 8 days, I don't know if I'll be able to... Well, actually, no, that's when the new league starts. This league ends in 4 days. Yeah, damn. Feels bad, man. But yeah. If I'm gonna PvP, I'm gonna play me some Dota 2, baby. That's what I'm gonna do. But I don't know. We'll see. All right, guys, that's my thoughts. What did you guys think of the expedition? Honestly, I think it's great. I love the direction they're going in. And for all those people that are always, like, you know, stupid, I'm not really saying stupid, okay? Whenever those people are just kind of like saying, hey, whatever it is, what it is, or, you know, this thing sucks, yada, yada, yada. I'm interested to see if this will actually satiate their hunger for something else, or will they still be bitching? Thoughts are, they're probably still going to be bitching. They're just going to be like, it never ends, man. You know, you try to make these angry sons of bitches happy, it's not going to work. They're never happy. Nothing in the world will make them happy. Give them all the money, give them all the things, they still won't be happy. They got to find the happiness in themselves. So, there we go. All right, guys. That's my opinion on Expedition. What I think about... Oh, dude, and some of these new gems, I gotta say, fucking sick. That is sick. But anyway, I already said it. Now, I mean... Play a new league or... Dude, you gotta play the new league, of course. But yeah, and that Reaper, holy shit, man. Because I'm still trying to find a way to rework my first Necromancer. Because I just took everything. I have golems, I have zombies, I have skeletons, I have specters. I got them all. Now I want to add that guy, but it's like, dude, he's going to eat all my guys. Hell, I think I have an Animate Guardian too. But they said specifically that Reaper is going to eat your Animated Guardian. And my Animated Guardian might be decked out in some good clothes, you know what I'm saying? But yeah. And that was really cool too. Like you see where they're throwing the flasks? The what is it? Explosive concoction? Dude, that makes me feel like that's like some Castlevania shit where you are throwing the holy water on the ground. That's what I'm feeling like. It's fucking Richter. Where's the whip? God damn it, we need a whip. But yeah, that's what that is. That's pretty cool. I mean, that's something I could potentially try fucking around with. That looks really cool. But alright, guys. My rant / fucking thoughts on this 3.15 announcement. I like it. We'll see where it is. I know we're not going to make all those other losers happy. But yeah. Thank you guys very much for watching. You let me know in the comments below. You like it? You didn't like it? Hey. Let's do our best to not be those asshats that are just, you know, angry about everything. Let's find something. There's always something to like, people. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. We got it. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys out there. Later.
Feed.
Chad was asking if they consume golems, but
all right, guys.
sure
I'm gonna leave this up, and I'm gonna get me some grubberino right now.
Nice.
I'll still be here, so just let me know what you guys think.
So
I'll be here. Talk to me.
That has been a long time coming, I think. Where there's some specific challenges in designing and balancing the skill.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because the base version of this that we were inspired by is from a game that doesn't support gems, and so we had to be very careful when designing the Path of Exile version to make sure that it works well when you do crazy stuff, right? And the obvious question is what happens with multiple projectiles, and the answer here is that the final blast of shards is the one that gets the additional projectiles. That can shotgun, right? So that's quite an interesting choice we had to make, because you have the question of shooting the eye into the boss and having a lot of those shards hit the boss at the same time is very damaging, and that's one of the really iconic ways of using this type of skill, the ability to aim that correctly. Now, the true degeneracy comes from traps, mines, totems, unleash, all that kind of stuff, right? Like, you can have some eyes on the screen. Let's just say we designed this one for performance.
Okay. Mana Bond seems to mess around with the concept of mana casters. Does the bonus damage from the missing mana scale up as your maximum mana increases, or is it based on the percentage of missing mana instead? So does it scale the same way?
It cares about the number of points of missing mana. So you want your mana pool to be as big as possible, and then you want to have emptied it if you're caring about damage there. So for the area of effect increase, it cares about percentage of missing, and for actual damage increase, it cares about numeric mana missing.
Okay, so the damage scaling still fits into the kind of meta of mana casters that exists currently, even though it kind of flips it on its head a little bit conceptually. Let's move on to difficulty, the big stuff. What can we expect from behavioral and balance changes, were the specific terminology mentioned there, to monsters in the campaign?
There's a lot of stuff here, and it's kind of what happens if you go through and redo stuff, in 2021 that you set up a long time ago. Like, you have to remember when we first set up Path of Exile's early acts, I mean, it's had some maintenance since then, but we were children, essentially, making our first game, right? Like, we were in our early 20s, have never done one of these before, right? So it took some actual, like, adult supervision now for people, like Mark and Rory and stuff who know what they're doing to go through and make that content pretty good. So basically, the monsters have more life, they move faster, they on average deal more damage per second. There's lots of aesthetic changes, a bit of like modern, let's make this stuff, not necessarily like redo the art, but in terms of making skills and stuff, like feel a lot better than the monsters are using. And the AI has been redone for a lot of monsters in terms of how intelligent, where they use skills. There's even some leading behavior where I think Hellrake will shoot his glacial cascades out in front of where you're running to, trying to tag you, which is terrifying when it happens to you and makes you really wonder what's happening there. The monsters have a lot less aggro range early on. Like, it's less a matter of aggroing the entire screen when you run around. So there are improvements here to make the early game actually like appropriately simple in some ways, despite being deadly. We had a look at monster density in the first act. We actually found that the second half of Act 1 had much lower monster density than the first half, so we fixed that. We've added some new monster types to Act 1, specifically in the prison and Mervale's caves. So yeah, it does feel pretty different, and we kind of have a thing at the moment at the office where we'll kind of dare team members to just play through Act 1. I'll watch you, and it's fascinating to see the results. And so yeah, they're working through the other acts as fast as possible so that we don't get too much of a jump between the two types of content. But basically, the intention is that the campaign is actually a fun experience to play through, and for players concerned that that doesn't add to their mapping experience, you can probably still use your advanced PoE skills to get to maps quickly. Like, it's not that much of a speed bump for the game to have some challenge along the way. You'll still get there in hours. It's fine. And secondly, these changes do affect maps a little bit. The monsters will start to become more intelligent, and a year later, maps will be quite a lot more fun to play because all the monsters will do intelligent stuff.
I quite like that you mentioned the reduced aggro range as a thing, because that sounds like a trend towards fighting fewer but more interesting and tougher enemies, which is something that I've wanted to see for a long time. So is that a trend that we can expect to continue?
We want there to be enough enemies that it does feel like you're fighting packs, of course, rather than just single super intelligent guys. But at the same time, there's no need to spam monsters if we don't need to, right? Like, it affects performance, it affects a number of factors. So we want the fights to be about the right size. And we haven't gone through and reduced monster density in maps here. It's just making sure it's appropriate for the campaign.
It leads into the idea that I often talk about on stream, which is difficulty via like just a lot of spammy stuff happening all at once, or difficulty that you can actually read and engage with. Yeah, Ultimatum versus say the boss fight of Ultimatum.
Right. And this is something that we worked very hard on with Expeditions Combat, because we looked back at Ultimatum and just said, like, this is just throwing monsters at the screen, right? Like, this is a case where you kind of close your eyes, spam your clicks, and hope that you survive. Whereas with Expedition, we want it so that the monsters, you're purposely choosing the hard monsters, a bit like Legion, for example, and then you're actually able to interact with them in combat with telegraphed attacks and interesting stuff going on. And so we think we've done a much better job with combat in this league. In fact, while in the video I explained that I liked the NPC mechanics with the merchant trading and stuff, honestly, the actual moment-to-moment combat of playing the Expeditions is a breath of fresh air compared to recent leagues that we've released.
It's good to hear. What should we expect in terms of other nerfs that you haven't mentioned in the video? Is there anything else?
I think that it's better to wait for the manifesto that we're going to be posting about that stuff. We didn't hold back on the usual nerfs that we do. There are buffs as well. It's just the usual balance pass. But one thing to bear in mind is because there are so many core changes to Path of Exile systems here, we have been relatively liberal with other nerfs that we've needed to make. Like, this is the right time because the metagame is going to be different. Normally in a Path of Exile league, players will say, okay, I know all the good builds. The question is whether these new bleeding skills are the best build or not. If they are the best build, I'm playing it. If they're not the best build, I'm playing the one that I already like. And it's pretty understandable. Here, you don't know what the best builds are. We've nerfed the best builds. We've buffed the non-best builds. We've changed how flasks work in a very large way. The game plays differently. Like, you can't walk into this expansion knowing what's going to be amazing. And that's going to be quite an interesting process of discovery. So the number of viable builds, both due to the uncertainty and due to the fact that there are actually more viable builds now, is going to be quite high. So when you see the manifesto, we'll do our best to explain the reasoning behind the nerfs. We don't want to do it arbitrarily. Like, we understand that nerfing the game will turn some players off, and it's generally seen as a negative thing. We would only do this if we felt that it was the right thing for Path of Exile, both in the future and immediately.
That's a good lead into asking about like, so recent leagues have been pretty nerf heavy in general with like fewer buffs to underused skills and builds. And while the goal is pretty clearly, as you stated in the video, to start reining in power creep and up the challenge of PoE, can we also expect some love for some of the older things for people to get excited about?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've definitely selected old skills that need some work and buffed them. You know, we've got a growing list of those internally, and as the team discover more that are easy for us to numerically change, we do that. And I'm careful not to overpromise here, because in the past we threw numbers around of number of skills that were buffed, and then someone looks at a skill kind of sideways and says, that's not really a buff. So I'm not going to name any numbers, but yeah, there's a bunch of skills that we've been working on, and you know, it's going to continue, right? If we see stuff that's below the curve, we will make sure to adjust it. Now, one thing that's important to bear in mind here is like, when we're looking at builds that have been popular recently, we're seeing like Ice Spear, Spark, Burning Arrow turning up just out of nowhere because people find clever ways to use them. And those are not skills that we said, oh yeah, no one's using Burning Arrow, let's add 30% more damage or anything. This is a case of players saying, oh, here's a cool combo, and then it starts to take off. And so there are a lot of sleeper skills there that probably don't need buffs, that are just waiting for the right moment to be found. Now, of course, there are also ones that do need buffs, and we've been careful to buff those ones.
How do you find managing the community reaction to dealing with power creep like this?
It's difficult to communicate this stuff because everyone who's watching this can hear the explanation and it makes sense, but I don't expect all the players to watch this. It's hard to actually have someone like read the patch notes, see a change to their favorite skill that they know and love, and get excited to play that particular release, because like it's what the safe option in the back of the mind is to play the thing, and we've just told them you're going to make 10% slower progress playing that thing, which is fun in the context of a more balanced game where now you're getting a better ratio of rewards per time and various other bits and pieces. But it is difficult to communicate this, and it's so tempting to just play for player expectations and throw entirely buffs around and never touch anything nerf-wise. You know, we don't have to come into work and nerf stuff. If we wanted to just be popular and have record player numbers, we would just buff, and then the game would die relatively quickly.
Dude, perfect. Yeah, listen to this guy.
If we want to be the action RPG that despite having been out for a decade, still maintains some degree of a level playing field, and that requires occasionally we have to rip the band-aid off here. Now, it's been tempting to leave all of this for Path of Exile 2 launch day, right? Like, you rock up to Path of Exile 2, and the game is entirely different. And that jeopardizes the launch day to some extent. We can find out now how these things actually play. We can find out now what the reaction is going to be, and make sure...
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm just making food. What's up, JJ? JJ, how about this? What you gotta understand, don't think about it as a negative, about them making it more challenging. That's the fun. That's the fun, because once people speed run everything, do you feel me? Like, because that's what these guys are doing. They're speed running the axe.
Variety being used,
and especially since you don't really lose any EXP until level 70.
Because we see people
fucking die all the time in the first couple acts. You know, learn, it's like, oh shit, that thing does that now? It's like, whoa, okay.
And we want to create some mystery.
That's what's amazing, because like I'll admit I really enjoyed the axe. They spent a lot of time, it's a lot of extra effort, but then
vision for
people just run through it. People skip all the dialogue, they skip everything, and it's just like, I want to get to the maps. How is that fun? It's not fun, man.
Is that still the vision, or has it kind of changed over time?
Yeah, that is the vision. We do want it so you can play relatively safely and then have spikes of difficulty occasionally. And this is what you'll see when playing League.
Oh, really? Well, I feel like Act 2 is probably the worst one, because you got to kind of go everywhere, and it's not really a spot where you can pick and choose. That's kind of like the open world section.
It's just so far under the curve. Like, we're having situations where when we're balancing the monsters for like ritual or
this will be my 5th run, but yeah.
Of regular game.
Always, again, like I told you, I try to keep that one character.
And the old stuff was languishing with incorrect balance. And that's why we've been working to raise it back up again, and also to make sure there's more consistent rewards and so on. So
that's all that matters. If the rewards are higher for the harder difficulty, fine.
Questions I have here that have been picked up from chat that kind of touch on the same area of topic, which is how do you feel this impacts like a player who maybe doesn't play as much Path of Exile, but has in the past, due to power creep, been able to access more content, been able to do Shaper and Elder, and have enjoyed that experience as a result? You're making the game a lot harder overall in general. How do you feel like it affects those players, and how do you want it to affect those players?
Well, there's a couple of things here. The first one is that if you wait a week, read
Oh,
what the
really?
best build
Oh,
deck
dude, man,
is, or
like,
watch your favorite YouTuber who's
Give,
worked out how to play the game.
give
properly,
yourself a
that
second
person
to
did,
just
you can
really
probably
kind of
still get similar
enjoy
results,
the
right? Like, we're
the
not
thing.
talking about big
I hear you.
numbers. This
Once it
isn't
gets
a big
confusing,
difficulty change. There could be a big difficulty change in the future. This is the first step.
I'll admit it's pretty
to
tough
see
for some
how
people to
received
kind of
and how much fun it is.
stick with it,
So we're
but
hoping
at the
that
same
this
time, you want to
process will make
try
it more fun.
and understand
So
it. You know,
it's
think
still
of it like
very
learning a
useful for
language.
casual players to
If you
get
just
used
like
to.
listen to someone
And then the
speaking
second thing is
hardcore, you know, whatever
philosophically,
language
should there be content
they're
that
speaking,
requires a lot of work
you're
that not everyone can get to.
you're not going to
I'm not
really
saying
pay
creating content
attention.
for the 1%, I mean
But
creating content for the
when
15%.
someone actually kind of gives you bite-sized
There are
bits,
arguments that there should
it
be
makes more
content for the
sense.
casual player
So
just
perhaps you're
to see
just
without
taking in
spending
way
time
too much all at
investment.
once.
Now, of course,
Kind of
it
like, you
sucks
know,
if that's something they were seeing.
if you still want to know the story, let the first couple acts go and let it
But
sink in and be like, oh, that's what's happening. Like, you know, be a detective. Be like Sherlock Holmes, trying to decipher what's happening. Go slow you down. Well, you know, like I said, man, gotta go fast. That's that's kind of what stops people. So
new content.
sometimes, man, you gotta stop and smell the roses, man.
Content and stuff like that is designed.
If you just keep on rushing and keep on running, dude,
is some
what
of that stuff going to be?
you just running to your death?
We are making sure it's in a good place
What's
balance-wise. A lot of it's
what's
sort
it
of
all
related
for?
to the
If all
league.
you're trying to do is just run to the end.
Let's say the league's out for 3 months.
It's the
We're not saying
journey,
it should
buddy.
take 90
It's the
days of
journey.
grinding to get to some of the content, right? That means people have to like just sit at their computer for the entire 3 months without a job, which is unreasonable. But at the same time,
What do you mean?
is
You can
it
run
okay
3 levels
that people are
below
killing
that
the
monster
absolute
level is
bosses
sad?
within days of the
Well,
league
yeah,
coming out?
because,
Like
you know,
that.
people just do that.
It feels. It
Oh,
could
it's
take
definitely
a
gonna be a
little
tougher
longer. Now,
league.
at the moment, we're
But
not
look at this.
just
There's
extending
so
it
many
arbitrarily,
options.
like we're trying to
All
make
those new
actual reasonable balance
gems.
changes to the game rather than just saying, "Oh, this grind is twice as long because we want people playing longer." You know, that's a bit of a cheap shot there. But we are looking at ways that we can make sure that there's a lot more progression before you reach and the end of the game and run out of stuff to do.
There we go. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yes, it's fine that people reach those bosses in the first few days, but I think that kind of like expands the question out to, is that more about like, you know, the Tai killer killing the boss in the first few days, or is it more about?
That's
like,
true.
the larger
But how about
population
this?
killing?
Now, are you making your own build? I hate to put it this way, but if you're following someone else's build, that's probably the reason why you can't really get behind anything. Because once you make something your own,
take a bit of time, you know,
that's when you really find something. But if you follow someone else's build, you're following everything they tell you.
Is that fun if it takes a little bit longer?
You're just doing a walkthrough. You're not playing the game. The game's playing you. You're playing the guy's guide. The guy is playing you, essentially.
It's now just going to take longer because we feel about
You're living vicariously through that guy. So that's not even your experience. That's his experience. I would always recommend. It's going to be weird, but make up your own mind on what skills you want to play.
This is all kind of ramping towards like having less.
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
overt
I mean, as long as you have a part of it and you are building it. But there's a lot of people. I know. I've seen them all the time. They all go, I just find the best build and I run that.
Shift things in a different direction. Do you think?
No questions. I just that's the best build. I'm doing it. Don't be that guy. Please don't be that guy.
rather than just kind of sweeping it.
Because literally, this guy on the right, Chris Wilson. People hate on him for changing things and supposedly doing this and doing that, but it's like, if you listen to what he's saying, he's one of the few devs that are still making it as a guy, as a gamer. He's still making this game as if he's playing it. You think anyone at Blizzard is playing their games? No. You think anyone at EA is playing their games? No. This guy actually plays the game. You can hear it. You can tell that he plays the game.
I want to get onto flasks because that's a huge topic.
Absolutely.
So not only have flasks, like the flask issue effectively.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
But the design intention of the entire system seems to have been lost over time. So it doesn't really seem like a very easy thing to change, though, however, because it has some really far-reaching gameplay and balance implications and intertwines with builds and all sorts of other games.
Yeah, because I remember when I was playing Diablo 2, I used to be excited picking up just any random thing off the floor. Now these guys are talking about like, oh, that's trash. Don't even worry about that. Only look for like the best stuff. It's like
overall power contribution to your character. And
this is supposed to be Diablo 2. You're supposed to play it however you want to play it.
That's very good to hear. I've got more questions about that later.
But then, like I said, everyone runs Flame Dash. Everybody does whatever the fuck they do. Everyone's looking for that one. Like, you're all playing the same build.
You still get a lot of flask charges. It kind of shows how bad it was that
You got a fuck ton of other units.
And you still get plenty.
Whole different bunch of classes, ascendancies, skill gems, but all y'all are doing the exact same thing. Everyone's playing the exact same thing.
Especially if you choose to use enkindling orbs, because they really ramp your flasks back up to
exactly. Have you ever tried using any other one?
In return, you don't get.
I bet you now it's gonna be like tearing off your arm.
So that means you've got you kind of super
because
that
you were told that. Like, did you discover that on your own, or did you find some guy that told you to do that?
From boss fights, or is that left?
Frostblink, yes. I use Frostblink the best. I like the immediate bam, you're there. It does have a cooldown, but I love the instantaneous boom, you're out there. And I like the fact that it freezes and leaves 2 frozen things on both sides. Yeah, because like what I was trying to do, I was trying to make every character their own thing.
Boss fights, you can
use nothing wrong with that. Yeah, yeah. I killed myself plenty of times with reflect elemental damage. Yeah, not the best.
I noticed that some of the utility flasks in specific have been nerfed heavily, like Basalt Flask being changed to give more armor instead of mitigation for any build. Now, this whole change is a bit counter to my expectations with this systems change, as I thought flasks would be kept fairly powerful in effect, but reduced heavily in uptime. So what led to this approach of making the flask weaker as well?
Well, there's 2 things going on here. We wanted more strategy and less spam, and we also wanted less overall flask power. Like, the intention here is not just...
Yeah, for me, I tried Dash, but my character wasn't a dex-based character, so I couldn't level up very high.
Because you have enkindling orbs, you can choose between the uptime.
Yeah, that's very smart, too.
Like, you want flasks that are weaker, that can be used quite frequently. Just use them how they are. Like, you get them still quite a lot. And if you want ones that are impactful like before, but you use less frequently and more strategically, enkindling orbs can help. And of course, instilling orbs let you trigger on conditions where it's necessary for that type of flask.
That auto triggering a flask.
Agreed.
Interesting. Will we get like a list of the sorts of things that you can trigger on?
Yeah, we'll put that together. So
I tried Blink Arrow. That's the one that you blink to where you blink arrow, right? That was interesting, but I felt like my character was too squishy when I was testing that out.
Back on trigger on bleed, for example, like all of the things that you'll need to trigger on are definitely there.
I was using Mirror Arrow instead. I thought that was pretty cool.
But why make that like an item that you craft randomly onto the flask? I know that's kind of Path of Exile style, but instead of having the auto flasking thing be something you can set up via like a menu or something like that?
Good question.
We don't see this as QOL. We see this as a trade-off you're making economically and for strategic reasons. And it's not too hard to find these, right? Like it's... You know, I mean, you wouldn't set it up on every flask throughout your gameplay. Like, it's an end-game thing, and it does take, you know, a bit of work to get your flask set up.
I think Mono is going to go Reaper, yeah.
Flasks, right? Like, no one is complaining that it's too hard to quality their flasks up. It's the same kind of thing. It's about that much effort.
Okay. Do these new currencies, can they be used on unique flasks as well?
Yeah, unique utility flasks.
Cool. So no life flasks for those auto trigger.
We would like...
As far as I heard, I believe the Ball Lightning Elementalist, that's like the cookie cutter build right now. That is the top build. And I hear that's probably going to be getting hard nerfed next league.
Like, if I drink a life flask, then I drink a different life flask.
That's just the word on the street. They say it's too rigged. And again, yeah, dude, like I've heard of that, and if I've heard of it, that means a lot of people are playing it or doing it.
So we've got some work to do there from a technical point of view. And
for me, if it's popular, I don't want to play it. That's why I'm gonna play a fucking totem guy. I'm gonna play a chieftain. Everyone says like the chieftain sucks, but guess what? I'm going there.
It should be fine. It should be fine. There's a
Hierophant
is still very much focused on, you know, essentially the more, you know, strategic flask.
Oh, Ball Lightning is Templar?
Usage.
Oh, okay.
We've not wanted to take away from that particular...
The Hierophant? Yeah. Yeah, like, because people were spamming the fuck out of that character, I haven't... He's probably gonna be the last character I play. But yeah, I'm trying to play all the characters that everyone else doesn't want to play, so that I can always get cheap items. That's the goal for me. There's no way I'm going to be fucking spending 50 to 60 to 80 to 1,000 exalts or mirrors. Go fuck yourselves. There's no way I can afford that shit. So I gotta fucking find the best gimp cheap shit that I can get.
Whereas currently one could argue that all the builds benefit from pushing the keys quickly.
Okay, so there's a big... I put a note here to warn that there was a big ramble lead into this next question. So just be ready for that. But another change that was mentioned was that ailment and curse removal will now have to be done reactively rather than proactively. And if, say, like a dousing flask is used prior to being ignited, it'll have no effect. So there's a bit to unpack with this change, I think. Reactive
Pretty
flasking
hardcore.
could be a really good thing for gameplay, I feel like. In some cases, for example, you're fighting a boss that ignites you, so you've got your finger hovering over the flask to get ready to douse that ignite, and that is like engaging gameplay effectively. However, there's some cases in Path of Exile where this sort of change is potentially concerning. Like, for example, you cannot anticipate being frozen sometimes when enemies have blanket added cold, or there's a mess of enemies.
I don't think it is.
Sources of potential freeze
I
from.
think just the
So most
gems
players
and all that
don't
other
need
stuff
to
is,
build
but
your
I don't
free
think they were
room
changed.
to
Well, we'll
avoid
find out when the
unexpected
patch
freezing
notes come out in the
for
next
example.
couple days.
Well, there are a lot of options here. Your first one is you can get an instilling orb to trigger on freeze. If you really don't want random freezes, then you set up your orb so that as soon as you're frozen, it unfreezes you, right? The second option is good reaction
like it.
times, right? You forego having to do that, and instead, when you're frozen, you press the button if that's how you want to play. Then you've got alternate ways of doing freeze mitigation. There's also the aquamarine flask now has an implicit property of reducing.
Oh, you're talking about the Royale?
chill
Yeah, the
effects,
Royale is
freeze
its
effects on
own
you by
thing.
40%.
Yeah.
That will,
Which is
slow
why I'm
down your
saying, like,
core
I'm
matches
kind
and
of
stuff.
scared. I hope
And
that
so,
doesn't go the way
yeah,
that fucking
several
Fortnite
different
went,
ways
you
you can
know?
deal with this, but at
Because
the end of the day,
Fortnite
there's a
was
chance that
Save the
monsters
World,
will
which
freeze you
I
based
was
on
honestly
what
looking
you
forward to
do, some
playing,
way of
because
dealing
they were
with
going to make that free to play, and I was going to play it. But guess what? Then they found out about Battle Royale, and then Fortnite is now
Yes, you can.
Fortnite, and
Oh, wow, okay.
they effectively abandoned Save the World.
So now that flasks can only be
Rip
used to remove
zombies.
curses and not apply curse immunity, is there any plans for curse maps? Because curse maps I feel like were pretty painful, and we mostly just were able to ignore the problem due to curse immune flasks.
So there are now some new passive skills which affect curses that you could consider, but basically we're wanting it so that if you're playing.
Oh yeah,
on
no,
this map,
no,
rather than
yeah,
going
the
curses,
Royale,
get rid
that's
of it,
100%.
you
It's
instead
a battle royale mode.
think about what the
Yeah, it's
curses
100
actually do
players
and find ways
versus
of mitigating that
versus each
particular
other, and you
effect.
get dropped in at
This
level
sounds like
1,
work, but
and
it's
yeah,
not really that bad.
the winner gets a cooking roa pit.
There's some balancing changes prepared for or planned for ailment immunity and stuff like that, and sources of those things.
Yeah,
I like how they're doing it though.
we
They're
do.
only holding
We
it
have done
every
some work with ailment
weekend,
immunity. When we
so
actually
they
have a
get the
look at ailment
maximum
immunity,
amount of
this is
players.
covered in the nerfs and
Everyone
everything,
gets to
so
test
they
it.
were
They
quite
can look
open
at
and very,
streams,
very
etc.,
clear about
etc.,
ways to just
and
trivialize the concept of cleaning
set it up
immunity,
that
so
way.
we've done some work there.
Pretty much,
We
yeah,
have
nice
some
little
nerfs
Roa
and
grill
things that
setup.
to focus on, which is just one of the nerfs we're
I
going
was
to
laughing my ass off when they showed that clip where he just fucking runs and just smacks into him, and then they get one hit killed. Oh god, that's
Yeah, we just
amazing.
didn't want to turn this into a 3-hour round.
Yeah, honestly, I could talk about fast for hours, so I'm gonna move on.
No worries. And we have Royale in 4 minutes.
I know exactly. I'm trying to wrap us up
We
sometime
can
around
keep
there.
chatting while they're playing Royale, though. I'll be just over here playing a bit.
But we might overlap.
You have? I haven't, so
Life and tech
I guess I was
issues.
just
We
lucky.
expect a smoother launch and queuing experience this time around.
Oh, I really hope we can do. We had problems both of the last 2 launches with stuff, and we put a lot of effort into fixing this. So specifically, the problem with queuing has been completely sorted. The queue will be fast like it has been in the past. The issue that happened before cannot occur again. It is literally removed from the source code. That is not going to occur. The database problems that we had at our last launch, which are interestingly to do with page sizes in our character database for the tech guys out there. Get your page sizes right in your databases.
Wow, see, and that's awesome.
That is now
I'm decent. That's why I liked Frostblink. I was able to just get away.
A very smooth launch from a technical point of view, and of course we've learned not to give paid streamers priority to get into the game more quickly. That was a mistake and will not happen this time.
Nice.
League box
Can't wait to
abilities
wait
free
forever to
roam.
get in.
Does this mean control clicking league items while in your stash will automatically transfer over to the league?
Oh,
box?
dude, like
And does that
you got to
apply
play bitch
retroactively
gameplay,
to the
JJ.
Heist locker as well?
It's no problem, man.
Yeah,
Just
so
like
we've enabled
cast, run away, cast, run away.
Expedition and
Get
Heist
into
lockers.
a
You just
like
basically go to the
a
Heist
rhythm,
locker
like
and
cast,
it's
run away,
like
cast, run away.
regular
It's
stash.
bitch
You
mode.
control
Just
the
always
Heist
think
item
bitch mode.
pops over
Think
there.
of yourself as like the snively little, you know, a bastard character in the background that doesn't want to get hit. That's you now. So you got to learn how to play like that.
To also inquire as to if there's any news on the progress of improving item stacking, pickup radius, things like that.
Okay, so when we see on Reddit, someone will post, look at the amount of currency here, and they show a screenshot with an absolutely unreasonable amount of currency to pick up. And we're like, what possibly can spawn that amount of clicking? This is ridiculous. Like, we look into it and we find, for example, so the Atlas passive, which enables King Harbingers, right? So that creates up to 4 or so King Harbingers in a map. And these dudes, for some inexplicable reason, were spawning over 60 rare monsters for the fight, right? Which is completely unreasonable. Each. So there's hundreds of rare monsters, and then there's like a sextant mod that says you get 3 currency item drops per rare monster. So you're getting literally multiple hundred currency item drops. It is completely reasonable to say, why do I have to pick all the stuff up? And also completely reasonable for us to fix that issue. So that particular one, the King Harbinger one, is one of the nerfs that we're doing here. But to get to your actual point,
Wow, he fucking nerfed that.
I've
Good job, buddy.
We will stack things so that it's a couple of clicks if there are a lot of items. We don't.
Yeah,
want
that rain
to
lightning
click
skill
like
looks
the
sick
full
as fuck,
night.
doesn't it, JJ?
2 is enough for that. And the reason why it is 2 rather than 1 is because it is the concept of opening a trove of stuff and getting multiple piles of it out. Like, it's representing hundreds and hundreds of base items on the ground. We're coalescing breach splinters together. That was an example of something where we realized there are actually too many droppings. So we're going through and fixing this. And as we introduce new content, we make sure to stack that. You'll notice in the footage that we released today of Expedition, we're not really seeing more than 2 of any particular type of currency together. We've also had some interesting changes to Axe boss drops.
Nice. I mean, nothing wrong with that. Yeah, like I was trying out Toxic Rain myself, and I was like, oh man, this is cool. No one must have played this, and I found out that everyone fucking played it. I'm like, sad face.
Like rares and uniques and stuff, you can't stack them. But we've basically said, look, we're going to add a whole bunch to the rarity, so it skews more towards getting rare and unique drops. And we're going to take away basically all of the blue items. And so now you're getting far.
Yeah, but I think, sadly, for your first time since you went through all the acts and you got through the story, and you played like Toxic Rain and all that stuff. Oh, I played both. Yeah, I was a very thematic character building. So once I found that there was Caustic Arrow and also Toxic Rain, it's like, dude, they have to go together. And you just find another thing that has like poison or damage over time, things like that. You know, like what was it? Poison help or venom, like all those things. Yeah, so like. That's how I built all my characters. That's how I try to make it work. But
no worries.
I feel for you, since you already started with a build. That's why you didn't really care about the story at the time, because you're too good. Put it that way. You're too good. You were too awesome at the start, so everything was boring and it was too easy.
And while we love the fact that
because it's already played. You already got to play it. The guy before you already played everything. So that's why I can see that you kind of lost your interest in everything, because the game already played itself.
Like this isn't just a supplementary thing, it's the primary way that people can find answers to these questions. And it's been a lot of work putting together these live streams. I started out working on it mostly myself, but quickly enlisted.
Yeah, well, your brother's a dick. He just wanted you to be there so you could juice his maps. He didn't care about you actually playing and enjoying the game. I know, you played yourself. You played yourself so hard. Yep, your brother's a jackass. You can tell him I said that too. Your brother's an absolute tool. He has no creativity. And he fucking fucked up your first time experience. What an asshole. I would kick him in the dick next time I see him. Oh, what a douche. Jesus.
It's more a matter of her training her arm.
Never get financial advice from him. That guy's gonna fuck you over now.
I was gonna use that.
Yeah, all he wanted you there for? He just wanted you to juice his maps. That's why he wanted you to get through the acts as fast as possible. He didn't actually care about that. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he wanted you to get to the end content as fast as possible so that you would juice his maps up.
But you folks have fun in Royale once it's up and running, which sounds like at any moment now, I think.
It should be up. I mean, assuming everyone behind me has done their job right, they should be playing Royale right now. Well, there could be
Nice.
amazing technical problems that I'm unaware of myself, but ignorance is bliss. So throw me some more questions.
We start seeing people sprinting in the screen behind you and fire and smoke.
You see fire, yeah.
Are there party queues available for the Royale game mode?
No, there aren't. We have an experiment with some party stuff that might be happening in the future, but
I thought they said I have to update.
We're not philosophical.
I just got right in.
Just for the time being, it's solo.
Okay, cool. So potentially something to explore in the future then?
Yeah. We think it's a lot of fun. We just haven't got to it yet, and it's partly because it took so much work to get Royale to the state here. Like
the Reaper does, doesn't he? Yeah, the Reaper has its own bleed abilities.
I'm really looking forward to checking out after this. Will the
you didn't hear that part?
Time
the Reaper's a bleeder.
Level maps and instances.
I thought that's why you wanted the Reaper.
So This is a
Yeah,
topic
he,
that even
he like is his own.
brought up when we push
Yeah, the
button and
Reaper,
there's
the
cool
Reaper,
thing
like the
goes
whole thing he
explode,
does,
and
it's a
it takes, like, 3
double-handed
seconds, and we look at it and go,
bleed,
that's so cool.
and then like
people are
everything
gonna
it
be
does
so
is all
happy
based
to have
around
3
bleeds.
seconds of their life wasted. And so we're
Yeah,
looking at
that's why I
options
thought when
to
you saw
make
the
it,
Reaper, you're like, yeah, that's. I was like, yeah,
to
that's.
make the
Makes
first
sense.
explosion quicker. Now,
You
once
can't
that
really
first
have
explosion
another
has
one
happened,
though
of course, the
because
optimal time to
it
find is you
whenever
actually
its
fight
life
the
gets
monsters in
low,
each wave,
it
like
eats
in a
it
disc.
eats
It
your
takes a
other
long time to progress. So
it
it's
eats your
mostly
other
focused on where we
summons.
have a cool visual feel for the theme right now, and we realize that is wasting 3 seconds of combat. So we'll find a way of making that still look good while being a bit more punchy, hopefully.
I'm so glad to get those 3 seconds back. Who am I kidding? I was just going to waste them anyway. So concerning difficulty, what about encountering the bosses? Like the look at the chance for the Taskmaster, for example? I think that's asking about like what is the chance to see the Taskmaster? Is that an RNG thing like we've had sometimes in the past?
So you find the bosses in those logbook expeditions generally behind certain objects, like you'll find some passageway or some fallen tree or a hole in the ground or that kind of thing. And who knows what's going to be in there? Maybe rewards, maybe bosses. And I don't know what the odds are, but I mean, my understanding is it's not meant to be incredibly, incredibly rare. Do you guys want to weigh in at all vaguely on that?
Yeah, you'll know if it's a boss chamber. You'll see it on the minimap when you get in there, so you know that it's boss time. But also, there's going to be an implicit on the maps that says there will be a boss, so you could trade for another player for the map boss.
So the map has got an implicit mod on it that lets you see whether there's a boss there, and then once you're in the map, it's clearly marked on the mini map. So it's less of a cool secret that I was implying and more direct, which is probably what you're wanting.
It can be a surprise, but there is also a rare outcome that you can trade for.
Got it. Right. So it can be a surprise, but you can also explicitly trade for logbooks that have the boss mentioned on them. So if you want to do bosses, you can trade for that, and if you roll a boss and you're not ready, you can of course trade it away.
Ace. Thanks, Rory. Have you ever thought about creating an in-game character creation tools like the PoE builder? This also, I guess, might be like, there was a thing briefly tested actually that was like highlighting this passive skill tree. Whatever happened to that?
There's this concept on the Tencent Chinese realm about these like recommended builds that they have each season. So when you log into Path of Exile, it gives you these 3 beginner builds, and you can choose them, and they're kind of themed with various ascendancies, and it recommends a variety of passives. And this is very much kind of a choice that the Chinese publishing team have made that they feel is appropriate for their player base. The way we've kind of evolved our community with its build guides and so on works a little differently in our opinion. So we haven't rushed to put that kind of hand holding for new players stuff in there, because there's other ways that they can literally watch your videos to find out how to play, if you see what I mean. So it's a little different. And because of that, we have a system in there where when you have a recommended build loaded, it highlights the passives and basically says this way, and they're marked in a certain way. And so we experimented with a system where you can create your own like layouts there. You can basically flag passives by right-clicking them or whatever, and then save these files and potentially share them. And we have that implemented. It's just a bit janky and it needs some work, and we're not entirely like, we want to make a big thing out of it if we're doing it, so you can actually share these and you have it so that if you like, you go to someone's build guide and there's a downloadable thing that you get, like an item filter, which then has the low level, medium level, high level trees, and it shows you the correct order for allocating stuff and that kind of thing. It hasn't been priority number 1, right? Like in that amount of effort, we can get Royale up or nerf most of the game, right? Like there's a lot of other things we can be doing with our time. So it hasn't been prioritized, but yes, it is something we're aware that people want to do. It's probably never going to be a Path of Building level of build prediction. Like while tools like Path of Building are of course incredibly useful, we do want in the game client people to actually have to like kill the monsters to get their skills rather than theory craft it and then be done, if you see what I mean.
Oh, chat's cracking me up. So basically go big or go home on that one.
Yeah, and it's just a priorities issue. Like
how he
if
said,
there's enough demand for
or you can nerf
having
half the
ability
game.
to right click a bunch of skills to lay out your build so that you don't forget what it is and then share that with other players, let us know. We'll get to it eventually.
All right. We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but this comment from chat's just so hilarious, so I'm going to read it out anyway. Will they make Feared and Awakener 9 weaker since they are giga nerfing us to oblivion?
That's a good one. Yeah, we'll see. It's not gonna, the nerfs aren't gonna have that much impact on the time it takes for people to get to that content, right? Like try it out. It's not that bad. You'll find ways around it. It's one of those things in the past where we've nerfed something massively and it's affected the players by like 2% overall because they're just smart and work out new ways.
So basically, no. To that person.
Yeah.
Can you apply MTXs to your Royale characters, and do they stay on between games?
when we enable MTXs, we will find a way that you can have your loadouts so they stay on. Currently, MTXs are not enabled in Royale, and there are two reasons for that. The first one is from a performance point of view. There's a lot of MTXs and there's a lot of players, and we don't want it so that when you run onto the screen, it slows down or doesn't draw the other player just because they're wearing a Christmas tree. And so that is something that we have to sort out. We're looking at ways. I mean, the intention is, of course, I mean, this is an unmonetized game mode. MTXs are going to be a part of it, but for time being, they're off, so it's nice and clean. The other thing is, from a fairness point of view, MTXs do let you hide what your character is wearing, and maybe this is fine. Maybe you learn that if you're covered, the guy's covered in fire and stuff, you can't really tell what he's doing. But we do need to stop and consider this, right? This is a competitive mode. We have to make sure we understand the implications of enabling people to reskin their characters in various ways. For example, skill effects aren't that misleading. If someone uses an alternate version of Freezing Pulse, it's still Freezing Pulse and is recognizable. But by the same token, if you cover yourself in some complicated armor that prevents you knowing if the person's picked up a helmet yet, there might be some advantage there. And so we just want to have a stop and think about that when we can.
That's a really good point I didn't think about, actually, like potentially including the...
We have a vanishing die MTX that lets you hide things. So you could literally pretend to be naked while wearing pretty good items, or uniques, for example. There is certainly some degree of advantage that comes from certain MTXs. Now, maybe this is irrelevant in the grand scheme. I mean, it seems probably true for Fortnite. I don't know. I haven't played it, but we just want to make sure we do the right thing there.
All right. Yeah. Well, it's good that you're thinking about that because I didn't even think about that. Will there be Royale on consoles?
No, not at the moment. And part of this is just to do with player populations. And, I'm not trying to criticize the player populations on console. I'm just noting that only a portion of Path of Exile players are choosing to engage in Royale at any one time, based on our existing data from the first weekend we ran the 2018 version. And out of those players, they're spread across many geographical reasons. If you're in Europe, you're not going to want to play against someone in Australia. And then there's time zones, and then there's the fact that most people wanting to play Royale in a Royale game currently, the matchmaking will just take far, far, far too long to actually get games to trigger. Plus, there's some work actually getting it to work on console. So for the time being, we're running it on PC. We'll see how it does. And if there's the player population to support some form of Royale on consoles, we will absolutely bring it there. We have no problem with bringing it there philosophically. We're not being blocked by the publishers bringing it there. It's entirely a matter of, it'll be super frustrating if you try to join a game.
Oh, you out of here, move. All right, buddy. GG's, man.
That's not enough to trigger it.
We'll see you when we see you.
Any updates on how Path of Exile Mobile is going as well? How development of that?
It's coming along, yeah. We decided not to show any stuff yet, and that's partly because we want to ramp up the marketing towards its release as opposed to dump all the information on you now and then find out how to.
I feel once they release Path of Exile
do have some
Mobile,
cool stuff to show.
their contract or whatever they're obligated for Tencent will be over, and then they'll be able to focus on Path of Exile too. That's my thoughts.
If people doubt that it exists, they should chat to the guys at ExileCon who spent several hours playing it and get some reassurances that there was something there.
Awesome. Are there any planned Atlas changes this week?
Not this league. I mean, there's probably a pile of nerfs just for expectations. But, I say that without actually knowing. That's a joke. The guys are smiling. But we do have our annual in-game expansion coming in the foreseeable future that will probably contain
annual
Atlas stuff as people know to expect.
Can you please ask if it is possible for any character to find the Winding Pier? Going straight to the source for that one.
Can't comment on that. If I get banned from my own game, it's going to be a big problem.
That would be a big problem. It even goes that high. Wow.
Yeah, I had a couple of notes, by the way, while we're talking to throw in there. While we
Agreed. Like they are trying.
So the
everything.
first one was we changed how Spectral Helix works after we filmed all that footage. So I lied to you. So what you saw there, it's very interesting watching chat. We show Spectral Helix, and people are like, "That looks cool," and then it shows it with Multiproj, where it looks really janky. And people say, that looks bad. It's amazing looking at the shift between the two. We changed how Multiproj affects it. Previously, it just caused you to throw multiple projectiles at the same time, creating this thing that A, was just bad for balance reasons, bad technically, and looked bad. We've changed it now so that A, it does more damage, right? And B, the multiple projectiles cause more terrain bounces, which actually happens quite a lot because there's occlusions everywhere. And so the skill works a little bit differently.
Oh, here he goes. He's gonna die in the Flicker Strike.
This is just due to the nature of us working.
Oh, and then the Row of Death. Here comes the Row of Death. Oh, and then the 2-hit. Molten Shell.
I actually kind of hated the way
that shit is so fucking amazing. So fucking amazing.
Footage, but I'm happy now. And the other thing is, we talked about nerfing all the support gems, the damaging ones, right? And we did. That wasn't a lie. But what we forgot to mention was that we've also buffed melee skills quite a lot to compensate for the fact that they were really gutted by the support gem nerfs. So there have been quite a lot of melee skill buffs to counteract a lot of the nerfing there. Now, it's worth noting we're not trying to buff melee skills in general above where they were before. There may be specific buffs to specific skills, but the support gem nerfing, which was hitting melee skills particularly badly, has resulted in some melee buffs. On the other hand, the spells in general are not buffed above where they were before or anything like that. You know, there may be specific spell buffs, of course.
That seems fair.
I just keep looking at Path of Exile too. It looks
a lot of us who have
fucking amazing.
watched all of these Q&As and read your manifestos in the past, we know the answer to the question of trade, because it's already been discussed to death in the past. But a lot of people who haven't seen those, before we get frustrated with them for asking the question, are asking about trade. So could we just very quickly get a brief summary on trade changes, things like that?
We don't have any trade changes coming in this particular update here. There are two things to note with trade. The first one is if there are things we can do that improve the trading experience that are small and prevent frustration, we'll probably work on
The
those.
fucking hand.
We're not opposed to
Asmund.
making trade less frustrating. We're very careful though that currently trade is both critically important to Path of Exile's success. Like, we're not one of those games that doesn't allow player trade. It's so good that you can find an item and it has value. You can actually trade it with other people and like feel like it's a thing that you have and you own. But on the other hand, trade is directly causing players to play the game for less time and have less fun. Like, the retention is so much better in solo self-found. You get on average like 10 times as many item upgrades per character slot when you actually have to go and find the items yourself.
Agreed.
And so we know that if we made trade very easy, which we could in a few days make it so you literally type in the item you want, click it, you've got the item, and then there's no real need to play the game beyond a couple of upgrades to your character. And we're already seeing a bit of that with players being able to efficiently max out their character. And so it also in that case, like, combined with RMT, someone sticks some money in, and before we've even found and banned the responsible people, they've got a maxed out character and had their fun for the league. It's not a particularly good situation. And so philosophically, we want to make sure that trade is possible in Path of Exile, but it is not particularly streamlined, because if it's particularly streamlined, people will just max out their characters quickly.
And see,
I think it's good
what
that
he's
allowing
talking
the
about
game
is
to
what
get
how I
is
played.
an important alternative. Now,
It's amazing.
the item system in terms
I mean,
of
it's like this game was made for me.
and various other bits and pieces, and the game isn't in a perfect state, right? Like, we get this work that needs happening there, and so we're focusing on getting that work done so that the game itself is as compelling and rewarding as possible before we even consider any changes to the trade system. It's also worth noting that for those who look at the console or Chinese versions that have the trade market and say, we really want that, bear in mind that those players are looking at the system on the Path of Exile trade side and saying, we really want that one instead. So there are pros and cons to both systems, and we do not intend to merge the two together to make an instant trade kind of thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
it seems like our
Well-
trade system is more powerful overall in terms of actually finding items. Just theirs is like more built into the actual game client.
Theirs has the ability to make offers and have them accepted without having to meet anyone, if you see what I mean. Which has its advantages, but it's basically the difference between easy item finding versus easy item trading, if you see. And so with our system, it's a real pain to, like, it's easy to find exactly the thing you want, but then it's a real pain to negotiate with the person and learn to speak Russian and deal with all of the issues of getting the item.
Learn to speak Russian. I'd be dope if I learned to speak Russian while playing PoE.
Path of Exile is an educational experience.
Excellent. Is there any, like, have plans? So quite a long time ago, you mentioned that cross-instance trading was a plan, but it seemed like that stopped being a plan. Is that still the case?
Yes, that stopped being a plan at the moment. We realized that making trade easier in that way was probably the wrong direction. And
Damn, how are they doing that? You see those? Look at those guys just like smashing like lava on those ancient fucking ancestral totems.
If we
How
made
do they
trade
do
easier,
that?
I think it would be the death of the game. And I know
Crazy.
that sounds dramatic, but we've watched this kind of thing happen in other places, and we're very, very careful with this. Like, we designed Path of Exile to be a thing that still exists when you people are old. Like, the goal here is you started playing this in your 20s, and you will still be playing this in your 70s, and we will find a way
Nice.
of supporting that. And that involves not accidentally giving in to things that we really, really feel the game shouldn't have.
I hope our quality of life keeps ramping then, so that when I'm 70, I'm still feeling fresh and spry in the fingers and hands department.
The flask changes in this patch will help keep your wrists good few years. Still good.
Good to hear, because I plan on playing a lot this league start. So someone wants to know, that's a long question, summarizing how's hardcore going to feel in this difficulty changes, basically.
And they're going to have more fun than before.
I know, that's kind of like the answer, isn't it? It's like
If
hardcore's
hardcore is
getting
just
more hardcore.
If hardcore is just standard, with occasional annoying deaths. That's not fun. If hardcore is an achievement, where like I got to hardcore in 3.15, I got to maps in 3.15 hardcore, which was actually a mission. That's more fun, right? Like it's getting to maps being an accomplishment is better bragging rights for people who are choosing that mode for bragging rights and adrenaline. You know, we could argue that there's a vision for an even harder hardcore mode at some stage in the future. That kind of thing, you know, with ultimate bragging rights. Like imagine Blamped as like a regular league, for example. That kind of thing. I'm sure there'll be players who would enjoy that.
Is there any performance texture plans or changes people can expect to read about more in patch notes and stuff like that?
We deployed a lot of this stuff in a engine patch a week or two ago, which has gone pretty well. There's other bits and pieces we want to fix based on people's feedback from that engine patch, but overall we're trying very hard to not have performance surprises on launch day. In addition, various issues
smart
with,
guys,
like invisible monsters and stuff at last launch are pretty resolved now. We have that particular thing was a bug in the engine combined with an incomplete shader gather, which we've worked out how and why both occurred and fixed them. So I expect your bosses will actually do attacks you can see in this particular launch.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Chris, thank you so much for hanging out with us today and answering a lot of questions.
You're welcome. It's been fun.
I'm going to go get ready to play some Battle Royale.
I'm going to refresh Reddit, cry for a bit, and then go play some Battle Royale as well.
Honestly, it's all pretty exciting. There's a lot here, and I'm pretty interested in seeing how big changes pan out. The fact that you're willing to make big changes is scary, and I mean, you can always walk it back a bit if you go too far, I suppose, eh?
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, but I'm pretty confident, and yeah, we put a bunch of work into making sure it's the right stuff. But everyone, have a great time with Expedition League. It's a lot of fun. Good luck with all of those skills. There's a lot of new league starters to try out.
Thanks so much. See you guys later.
See you later.
Damn, just like that. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Well, there was a time where it got up to like almost 100,000. Also, you got to remember there's no free microtransaction, so the minus free microtransaction looks like it was a little rough. And was the last one also on a Thursday? I think the last one was on a Wednesday. Was it on Thursday? Okay, it felt like I know it was midweek for sure, but oh, and 320 credit wings. Yeah, people looked at what that was worth. Like, dude, that's worth $32. And then in addition to that, remember that was the first look at Path of Exile 2. So this one is mainly what this one is doing, in my opinion, is they're getting ready for Path of Exile 2. Like, they're all the shit that they're doing this league going like, fuck, we're gonna test this. And if this works out, like, I can hear them. Do you hear how he was talking? These 4 guys have 4 different ways of gambling for items. We don't technically buy anything from an NPC, but I believe they're making it to the point where you can join factions. You can do housings, and whatever you choose, that's your bartering system. You either barter, where you don't know what the fuck it is, and it might be good, it might be bad, or potentially it can even be like the next one, where it's like, you can haggle him, but if you haggle him too much, he hates you. You know, he's gonna take the trade-off. Like, I could see that happening, and then I can also see potentially setting up, everything I feel they're doing is a test for something for Path of Exile 2.
I don't know.
So, that's my opinion. That's what I'm thinking. But yeah, guys, with that, I'm going to take a quick little breaker. Get some, yeah, ready. But I will try and be back and try and play at least the game. I don't know if I'm going to be playing that Battle Royale thing, but thank you guys very much for watching right now, and I'll see you guys in maybe a couple hours. Later.
I haven't a weak spot. You lie. There must be one. Brother Chow, attack the groin.
Vaya con Dios.
Thank you.
And this is still